Welcome to T.J. Gholston's Big Time Football. As always, I'm your co-host, James Ernest, along with T.J. Gholston. T.J., who's our guest tonight?
Tonight we have Byron Chamberlain.
Thank you, Byron, for coming on the show. So what got you playing football back in the day?
It was actually a challenge. I didn't really play football as a kid. When most guys, start Pop Warner or they play real early in these little leagues or whatever, I didn't. I played baseball. I played golf. I played a couple other sports. And I was going to high school, and a guy I played baseball with actually said, "Hey, man, we're going to high school next year. Let's try out for the team." And I told him, "Hey, man, if you try out for the team, I'll go out for a team, as well." And it kind of happened just like that. And that's what got me into football.
So the way I understand it, at Eastern High or Eastern Hills, you were proficient in several sports: the football, the baseball, and track.
Yeah, I played football, baseball, track. But like I said, my focus was baseball. But I started having some real good success early on in football. Actually, the first game I ever played in, I ran the opening kickoff back for a touchdown.
Nice.
First game, first play of the very first game I was in, and I had some really good success. And at my high school in Texas, you didn't play varsity as a freshman, so I wound up making the varsity as a sophomore. And two guys actually made the varsity team as a sophomore, and it was the first time that ever happened at my high school. And it was me and another guy named Marcus Buckley, who played 8 years in the NFL as well.
So definitely not bad company there.
Yeah, definitely not bad.
Excellent. So when you played baseball, what positions did you play?
I played left field, and I played a little third base when they needed me in the infield. So, and I actually thought I'd be a professional baseball player. That was my goal. But, with the success that I was having in football, I became one of the top recruits in the state of Texas. Was actually one of the top receivers, high school receivers in the nation when I was coming out of high school. So I got recruited by, all the Big Ten, SEC. Back then, the Big 12 was the Big 8, Pac-12 schools. So a lot of schools all over the country were recruiting me, and wound up going to the University of Missouri.
Excellent. So what did they say that the other schools didn't?
Well, when I was looking at schools, I had three criteria. First of all, I love to travel. So I was really looking at somewhere that I'd never been before. I wanted to go somewhere with a unique, for me, a unique location, somewhere that I'd never visited before. And I traveled a lot, been to several different states, but I'd never been to Missouri, so that it qualified there. I wanted to major in broadcast journalism, and Missouri is one of the top journalism schools in the nation, so it fit my academics. And then as far as style of play, I was looking for somewhere who threw the ball a lot. I didn't want to go somewhere and be a blocking receiver. I remember Barry Switzer recruited me when he was at Oklahoma, and they ran the triple option. Well, I told him, like, Coach, you're wasting your time, and I'd be wasting my time if I went to Oklahoma, because I don't want to just sit there and block for running backs all day. I wanted to catch the ball. And Missouri was very progressive in the way they threw the ball. Our offensive coaches included Andy Reid, who's the coach for the Kansas City Chiefs now. He was one of our offensive coaches, as well as Dirk Cutter, was our offensive coordinator, who's the head coach for Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and as well as Marty Morningweg, who used to be the head coach at the Detroit Lions, and I think he's the offensive coordinator for either Philadelphia or somebody. He's the offensive coordinator in the league right now. So we had some really great coaches who were really like progressive with and creative with their play calling, and as you can tell, as the success those guys have had in the NFL on the NFL level.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean that answers all the questions of why you went there.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, getting to work with those fellows, I mean that's a no-brainer right there. I mean, don't get me wrong. I was thinking you might have considered your original home in Hawaii or maybe something in San Diego.
Yeah, I considered Hawaii definitely recruited me. I considered that. But when it all came down to it, after going through the whole recruiting process, for me it narrowed down to 3 different schools. It narrowed down to University of Miami, University of Missouri, and UCLA. And one of the reasons I didn't go to Miami was they signed the number 1 receiver in the country, Kevin Williams. He went there on a visit the week before I was supposed to visit there. And so he wound up committing there, and so I started looking at more Missouri or UCLA, and when I took my visit to Missouri, I kind of knew that I wanted to go there. I kind of saw the fit, thought it would be a good fit for me, and actually. I tried to get out there without committing, though. But they followed me. They held me in the office. They followed me to the airport. They wouldn't let me go, and before I committed, and I actually committed at the Columbia, Missouri airport right before I got on my plane, and wound up canceling my trip to UCLA after that.
Nice. I was going to say, I'm sure TJ, you can relate to the recruitment process and just how crazy it is.
Yeah, it is crazy. When I was
who else recruited you, TJ?
Some of everybody. From all over Ohio, all the Big Ten, some SEC schools. Pretty much. A lot of people pretty much. Boston College. Just a lot of top schools. It was so many. It was but as far as it being crazy, I went up to Ohio State my junior year. Summer after my summer, it was my junior year for a football camp, and they brought me in the office then and wanted me to commit right then. They said, "Well, if you don't commit right now, we'll have to go another route." I said, "Well, I guess you got to go another route because I want to take my recruiting business. I want to try to enjoy the experience and see exactly what's what. Not saying that I wouldn't go to Ohio State, but it's
and that's what a lot of schools do. They try to pressure you into not taking visits to other schools or committing and saying, hey, we got this offer on the table right now, but if you leave, you don't know. And you being one of the top players, the offer's going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
But as a young kid, I'm 16 years old going through this. I don't know. I didn't know that, how all this worked. So when somebody says, hey, if you don't sign now, if you don't do this or whatever, you kind of take them at their word, not understanding that, they're just trying to put pressure on you. Like when I committed to Missouri, I still was going to take my visit to UCLA because, like you said, I wanted to enjoy the whole process. I wanted to, weigh all the options. And I got a call when I got back home, and the coach from Missouri is telling me, hey, you need to cancel your visit to UCLA. I'm like, cancel my visit? And he's like, yeah, you committed here, so you don't need to go out there. You don't need to, do anything else. And, me being, 16-year-old, not very experienced, I canceled my visit. And he's probably right, because if I probably went to UCLA, I may have enjoyed myself out in California and may have signed out there. So.
Right. I totally agree.
So tell us about that freshman season, and just how amazing and intense that must have been, going from high school to college, big-time program like that.
Well, coming in as a freshman, back then in my whole recruiting class got redshirted except for me, and there was another guy on defense, Maurice Vincent, who was a defensive back and the punt returner. And so I'm thrown in there, and I'm playing as a freshman, playing in the old Big 8, which back then was, Oklahoma, Nebraska, Iowa State, Kansas State, Colorado, Kansas, Oklahoma State, and Missouri. And so we're playing big-time schools, every week. We're on the road playing in Norman, Oklahoma, playing in Boulder, Colorado, against, some top teams. My first catch came against Nebraska. And I always tell people, it's not the Nebraska right now. It was the Nebraska with, Coach Tom Osborne. They were always ranked in the top, 2 or 3 in the country.
Right.
It was the Nebraska, offense that was going to run the ball 50 times a game and throw it 2.
That's when they ran the option, didn't they?
Yeah. They were going to ground and pound you, and you had to not make mistakes. And they were in the national championship picture year in and year out. So, but playing against teams like that and having some success, playing against the Colorados, Colorado almost won the national championship my freshman year. They wound up winning it my sophomore year. Oklahoma back then, the same thing with Coach Barry Switzer. Oklahoma State with actually Gundy was the quarterback, who's their coach now. A very good player. So we played it in a great league, and it was tough. It was very physical. But I made the adjustment. One of the things was, I was a very fast learner. I learned the offense. I was a versatile player, so I could play inside, I could play outside. They lined me up in the backfield, in the slot. So I could do a lot of things, and it brought real value to that offense. So I was able to have a really good freshman year.
Nice. Yeah, I was going to say you were all freshman or all conference or all freshman conference, or how would they phrase it?
Yeah, it was. I was all conference on the freshman team, and then I was actually on honorable mention for freshman All-American. So
nice.
I did pretty well.
Yeah. Then do you mind us asking why the change to Wayne?
Well, as a sophomore, I came in. I led the team in receptions. Got into some academic trouble, and you have to understand too. When I went to college, when I enrolled in college, I was 17 years old. I was very young, very immature, and I really, didn't understand how to juggle football and academics and social life and all the things that come along with being a college student. And so, my focus was definitely football. And then the other part of it was, trying to split the social life with the academics and making time for both and not really getting a grasp on or a handle on how much social life that I need to have and basically, to put it in layman's terms, was partying my ass off.
Yeah. I understand that.
You know, I said, you know, they told me, you know, I didn't understand you didn't have to go to every party. And you know, it wasn't because it wasn't that I couldn't do the work. It's that, you know, a lot of times I was missing class or showing up late for class and missing assignments and things like that. So one of the things that I had to do was get in a better situation, get in a better routine, and I needed to transfer. Wayne State was a Division II school, a smaller school. I was able to focus on my academics as well as football, and I was able to really excel at both, and I wind up getting my degree in communications.
Nice. You ended up getting a lot of records at Wayne, and did you end up winning the Harlan Hill Award as well, I believe?
No, I didn't win the Harlan Hill. I came in second. I should have won it. And for those that don't know, the Harlan Hill Trophy it's like the Heisman Trophy for Division II, and I was on it with I think the quarterback from Valdosta State was the guy who won it my year, and but we, you know, I had 2 good seasons, set a lot of school records there. Had you know, most catches in a game. Actually, my very first game there, I had 8 catches for 210 yards. Was the most yards in a game, in a single game.
Wow.
And then later on that season, I caught 15 passes, which broke the single game mark for most catches in a game. Wound up in 2 years setting the all-time receiving record for most catches, with 161 catches in only 2 years. So I caught a lot of balls, did some good things, and doing that gained the attention of a lot of scouts. It was the Conference Player of the Year my senior year. I made All-American, you know, my junior and senior year. So got a lot of attention and got a lot of scouts to come check out Wayne, Nebraska, which a lot of scouts don't do. And the thing about that is, and I look at it, I'm the last player from Wayne State to ever be drafted. They haven't had another guy drafted since I was drafted in 1995.
Wow.
So at that point, were you still a wide receiver, or had you transitioned to tight end?
No, I was still a wide receiver. I got drafted as a wide receiver. My first full year in the NFL, I played wide receiver. It wasn't until my second year where I started playing a little of both. I started splitting time at wide receiver and tight end. Then my third year was the year that I was mainly a tight end. I kind of made the full transition to tight end.
Right. So you'd mentioned your pro day, drawing in the scouts to Wayne. Do you feel that helped out any of your teammates to maybe get free agent deals or anything like that?
Well, it definitely brought some attention to Wayne State. There was a couple of guys that played in the NFL and got picked up as free agents. There was another guy who got drafted, Brad Otis, the year before me. But then there was another guy, Damon Thomas, who wound up signing as a free agent deal and wound up playing for the Buffalo Bills, and Kevin Swain, who wound up playing with the New York Jets as a free agent. So, yeah, there was a couple of guys who definitely benefited from, and they were good players, but they just, weren't, those draftable type players that the NFL thought, could be drafted. So, so it did definitely shed some light on them and gave them some opportunities as well.
What was the draft process like? I mean, dealing with the combine and the pro days and all that, and then waiting through the 7th round. What was, how intense was that?
It was nerve-wracking. It was just being in uncharted waters. I mean, the thing is, I went through the whole process of picking an agent, and and that's another that was in there that I just didn't know. And should I get an agent with few clients? Should I get an agent that's a bigger agent that has a ton of clients? And I thought, for me, I figured that I needed someone who was pretty bigger, who had relationships in the league, just in case, just to get my name out there to people, and then to get me just different opportunities. Like, I played in the Hula Bowl, and it was because of my agent's relationships. And one of the things that was that I'm proud of is I was the first Division II player ever to be invited to the Hula Bowl All-Star game. So when I get there, it's I'm from Wayne State, and I'm playing against guys from Florida State, from USC, from Texas, Syracuse, all these bigger schools, and I was the first guy below the Division I level to ever be invited and to ever play in the game, and I had a really good game there. As a matter of fact, I had like 5 catches for about 88 yards and scored the only touchdown for our team that day. So that really put my name on the map with scouts and general managers that were watching that game. The other thing is going to the combine. I really had a good combine. I was a bigger receiver, but I ran the fastest short shuttle time out of the receivers that year. I had a really good broad jump and really good vertical jump. And then my thing was when we got on the field, my thing was was catching the ball. I just felt like I just had excellent hands, and I just never dropped anything. So I didn't drop a pass during the receiving drills at the combine. So that kind of opened up a lot of people's eyes. And I just remember being in Mel Kiper's book and he had me rated as on his top 10 receivers. I think I was number 8 of the top 10 receivers that year, and I think he had me as a 2nd or a 3rd round grade. And I remember saying if everything went well, I could go as high as the 2nd round, but he thought I'd end up somewhere in the 3rd or 4th round. And so I kind of had a little high expectations coming into the draft. So when I'm sitting there during the draft, I get a call in the 3rd round from Green Bay, and they said they're going to take a receiver. And so I knew I'd worked out for them. I knew I'd heard, that they liked me. And then once they called, I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm going to Green Bay. And they draft Antonio Friedman, who was a very good pick for them. He started in their Super Bowl teams and had a really good career in Green Bay. Mm-hmm. So I think I got another call from like New Orleans during that time. And but they obviously didn't draft me, so it was kind of nerve-wracking, waiting to the last day of the draft and finally hearing from the Broncos. But once they called me, once I heard my name called, on ESPN watching the draft, I mean, I was ecstatic. Everybody was excited. My mother, my siblings were there, and we celebrated, and it was a great fit for me. Thinking back, I wouldn't have wanted to go anywhere else.
Nice. I was going to say, working with, such talent they had there in Denver and all, that must have been exciting going into rookie camp.
Yeah, when you got there and, you coming in as a rookie and you see John Elway and Shannon Sharp and Steve Atwater, these guys were huge and legends in the game. And when I got in the meeting room, what's crazy was, as a rookie, I said, okay, this is the first day. I'm going to be on time. I'm going to be early. So I get in the meeting, and I sit in the seat, and I get a towel on the shoulder, and it's John Elway. He says, hey, rookie, you're sitting in my seat. and so, everybody's laughing at me. So I get up, and then I scoot over to the next chair, and Shannon Sharp comes in. He says, hey, rookie, you're in my seat. So I get up and I move again, and I sit in the next seat. And then Rod Smith, who's our receiver, comes and sits next to me. And we sat that way, for my entire career in Denver. Obviously, John's the rest of his career. But then that day, as we're sitting there, John's sitting there talking to me and Shannon. And mind you, this is my first day in the building. And I'm like, John Elway is talking to me. He knows me. This is pretty damn cool. And wind up having a great relationship with John, a great relationship with Shannon and those guys, and obviously great success on the football field.
Definitely. Obviously, you've learned a lot probably from all of them, but anything that in particular that sticks out that you learned from, say, like Rod Smith or John Elway or Shannon Sharp on being a tight end or receiver?
Well, yeah, and see, that was the thing, is Shannon Sharp was definitely my mentor. And Shannon Sharp, and I give that guy credit for my career, because he taught me everything there is to, for being a tight end, not even being a tight end, but being a professional. And, from, handling yourself on road trips and dressing the way you dress, business-wise, with the suit and tie, to different moves of how do you run routes against a linebacker versus a safety, because that's who usually covers the tight end. It's either going to be the middle linebacker, the Sam linebacker, or the strong safety. And
right.
And you might run a route one way against a safety versus the middle linebacker having where the middle linebacker, most guys are, they're stronger guys, so they want to get their hands on you. Whether as you're going against a safety, he might be a little faster guy, quicker guy. He wants to use his speed and quickness, and so you might have to do different things to run the same route and get open. So just learning from him. The biggest thing I took from him, too, is studying the game, watching film, how to watch film, things to look for when you're watching film. And because to me, that's the biggest difference in why guys have success in the NFL and why they don't, because everybody's talented. Everybody runs a 4.5 or 4.6 or whatever. Everybody can run and jump and catch. So the talent level is nearly the same. So what separates guys is the mental preparation. And so that's the biggest thing that I took from Shannon.
I was going to say, you mentioned about how, switching from wide receiver to tight end. TJ can relate to that. During our season here, during the different seasons we worked together, he was originally a defensive end, and then he played some tackle, and then actually even he scored, 2 touchdowns in a game? Yeah, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I feel like I always probably should have been a tight end. He just never really, my college coach wasn't going for it. The receiver coach wanted me, but Paterno said no, so that was the end of that. What were you moved to a tight end out of necessity, or did you, what was the reasoning for it?
So the reasoning for moving to tight end was I was a big receiver, and I could run. Even, I could run. And then the other thing, like I said, is I really got a grasp of the offense. And so I was very versatile.
Mm-hmm.
But as a big receiver back then, and the way we ran our offenses, you know, Mike Shanahan came to me and said, "You remind me a lot of Shannon Sharp," because Shannon came here as a big receiver, and I think if you could put on some weight and maintain your speed, you could be a real threat in our offense. And for me, I was just looking at it as a way to keep a job.
Right.
And so I had no problems with it. And I was going to be learning from Shannon. They put me on a weightlifting routine, like when the team during the season would lift twice a week, I would lift 4 times a week. And you know, I was able to maintain my speed and quickness. And so, you know, Mike Shanahan was just looking at it as another way to get, you know, another talented football player on the field. So it wasn't really necessity versus we had a lot of talented players. We had a lot of talented wide receivers, Ed McCaffrey and Rod Smith, Willie Green. And so he was looking at a way to kind of get me on the football field.
Exactly. That kind of brings me to my next question. Is that probably the reason why they ended up sending you over to the Ryan Fire in the World League? Because, like you said, there was so much talent around you. Yeah.
Well, the main reason was to get some experience playing the tight end position. And that's when I first, you know, after my rookie year, that's when I first started playing tight end. So I went to NFL Europe, and for them it was like, you know, they could get me reps at tight end without it costing the team. And I made my fair share of mistakes because I was actually learning the position. But, you know, I also had a great season over there, and I led the league in receptions, and I led the league in receiving touchdowns that year, and actually came in second again for the Player of the Year voting, which I thought it would have been cool to have a tight end be Player of the Year. Like, when does that ever happen? In what league does that ever happen? As a tight end being Player of the Year, but I came in second to Saran Stacy, he was a running back, and his team won the title that year.
Nice. You're right, yeah. Unfortunately, tight ends do tend to get overlooked a lot of the time.
Yeah.
How much?
It's a defense.
Go ahead.
I'm saying, yeah, the tight end is a dependent position. We depend on the quarterback, you know, and then you're more of a hybrid. You know, you got to block for the running back, and not just like a receiver. You got to actually create the holes, and that was the difference. And that was one of the big transitions that I had to learn. Like, as blocking as a receiver, you're just kind of staying in front of a guy, burying him, taking him one way. As a tight end, you got to push people off the line. You got to create holes. You maybe double team them with the tackle. You're working up to a linebacker, but you got to create the holes for the running back to run through. So it's a different mentality. It's a different type of blocking. So that was one of the things that I struggled with early in the transition.
Now, how much did you weigh when you played wide receiver when you moved over to tight end?
When I was playing wide receiver, I was anywhere from 215 to about 220 max. I kind of tried to keep my weight around the 218 mark, and then when I first moved to tight end, I think I when I came back I was like 232, and they wanted me to get up to 240, and so during my career, my playing weight was about 240.
Okay.
Which is not a big tight end. You know, when I first came in the league, they wanted guys 260, 270, and they'd line you up right at the end of the line, and you'd be like an extra tackle blocking. But Shanahan was one of the first coaches that we played a lot of two tight ends. we were a lot of times we go 2 tight ends, but we'd be in empty sets with me and Shannon Sharp because we could run like receivers and we could catch the ball, we could get open, and so he would split us in the slot or out wide or line us up in the backfield and go in motion and create matchups that way.
Obviously, they were both huge and exciting. But which one did you enjoy more, the first or the second Super Bowl win?
You know, if I have to be honest, they were both amazing. The first one, because it was Denver's first Super Bowl, I really didn't contribute much in that game. But being there and being on that team, going through, the year, it was just an amazing year, and it was to see the city of Denver come out and celebrate that first championship. Because you got to realize Denver had been to the Super Bowl 3 times before that, or 3 or 4 times before that, and always lost.
Mm-hmm.
They got embarrassed like 55-10 by San Francisco one year. The Redskins beat them back in the day. They lost a bunch of Super Bowls, and so for this to be the actual first one, it was exciting. It was amazing. But for me, to be honest, the second one, I played a lot. I contributed a lot. Shannon Sharp was our starting tight end, and he got hurt in the first quarter, so I basically played the entire game. Had some big catches in that game. Had some huge rocks for our fullback, Howard Griffith, who scored 2 touchdowns, basically running right behind me. So that one kind of meant a little more to me because I really had a really good game. And then the other thing, too, is and this is a little-known Super Bowl fact, I recovered 2 onside kicks that game, which is a Super Bowl record because no one's ever done it. Because nobody really onside kicks in the Super Bowl.
Right.
But Atlanta did it twice, trying to come back. So I recovered 2 of them. So I was actually named Special Teams Player of the Game for Super Bowl 33. So and got a nice watch for it too. And wound up giving that watch to my brother. But yeah, I really had a really good game, so it really meant a lot to me.
Excellent. That we'll be able to use that information on. We have it's a Super Bowl trivia show that one of our guys runs. So that'd be awesome. We'll have to save that in the back of the mind for be able to stump him one of these days.
Well, tell us about just as far as playing in Denver and then playing in Minnesota, and the difference.
Well, the difference for me, like I said, when I played in Denver, I had a great tight end, Hall of Famer, Shannon Sharp, who was the starter. And so, I played a lot, but Shannon was the main guy. When I became a free agent, and came to Minnesota, I came and I visited, and I had a meeting with the coach, Denny Green, at the time. And Denny, told me, hey, I want you to come here, and I want you to be our starter. We watch film on every free agent tight end in the league, and we think you are our guy. We want you to be the guy. So coming here, I didn't have to worry about splitting time with anybody. I didn't have to worry about somebody else being the starter. It was my job. So, so I, had a lot of individual success. We had a lot of team success in Denver. We didn't really win that much while I was here in Minnesota, but I had a lot of individual success. My first year wound up leading all NFC tight ends in receptions and in yards, and was named to the Pro Bowl that year, and I was the only Viking player to play in the Pro Bowl. So that was really special, going back to Hawaii, because I was born in Hawaii. And here's a quick story. The actual stadium in Hawaii, our actual house that we lived in Hawaii was sold and torn down to build that stadium, Aloha Stadium in Hawaii. So it's actually going back to, where I was born to play in the Pro Bowl. So that was a big deal for me.
And that first season, like you said, getting on the Pro Bowl roster, do you feel that your numbers were swayed the second season because of didn't you have Randy Moss and Chris Carter the second season?
No, I had them both seasons.
Both seasons, okay.
Yeah. No, I one of the things that the second season, Coach Green had gotten fired. We got a new coach, John Tice. He wanted to play a little more two tight ends, so we had Jimmy Kleinsasser, and kind of, I still caught like 30-something, 34 passes, but I definitely split a lot of my catches with Jimmy because we were playing more two tight ends that second year. Excuse me. So, that was the combination. The other thing is Coach Tice that came out with this new thing called the Randy ratio, and he was saying we need to throw the ball to Randy Moss a little more, at least 75% of the time. And we're throwing it to him 75% of the time. That means, my touches are going down. So that kind of was the kind of reason the numbers kind of dipped that year.
Yeah, that does make it tough dealing with a diva receiver. Off the field, was he pretty easy going?
Yeah, off the field, Randy was great. He was a great teammate. He was a guy that liked to have fun. He was a guy that enjoyed being around his teammates. He was Randy was a pretty polarizing figure, as well as a pretty famous guy. So everybody knew him around town. So it was kind of hard for Randy to just kind of be a regular person. And so that's why he really loved his teammates, because he could be a regular guy, when he's around us. And so I really appreciated playing with Randy. He was the most talented, just gifted, God-given talent guy that I've ever played with. Randy Moss could walk on a football field and easily, without working, be the most talented guy out there. Just from a pure God-given gifts. And so that was one thing you knew. And other thing you knew too is Randy wanted to win. He wanted to play hard for his team and just win. And so a lot of, what people considered him being a diva and a lot of his antics was all about getting the ball, because he knew, like, he could score at any time. You just throw it up to him, and he could go get it. So I appreciated playing with Randy Moss.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're lucky in this area. His daughter actually ended up going to one of our local universities, and they ended up winning back-to-back national titles. I think they were undefeated either one or both of the seasons. So, yeah, it definitely runs in the family with them.
Oh, very athletic family, yeah.
So, obviously the other receiver, which is weird to call him the other receiver, with Chris Carter. What type of things do you learn from him about receiving?
Chris was our team leader. He was the older guy on the team, but he was a guy who had, came from Philadelphia and came to Minnesota, kind of changed his life around. And another thing is he was on a Hall of Fame pace as a receiver. But you just watch the way he worked he's the one who has had tremendous work ethic and wanted to win as well. So it was good. It was good playing with him and just seeing him as, you just knew that he was eventually going to be a Hall of Fame guy. So I remember seeing him after he got inducted and talking with him and just congratulating him on being inducted in the Hall of Fame, because we could see it coming. You definitely knew he was one of the better receivers to play the game.
So you ended up finishing your career with the Redskins in Washington. What was the transition like out of football for you?
So the transition after I retired, I was kind of thinking what I wanted to do. Did I want to get into coaching? What did I want to do? So I actually went into coaching for a couple of years. I did an internship back at the University of Missouri, and then I took a coaching job at a Division III school called Wartburg in Iowa. And I just didn't like the hours of, coaching. It just, to me, it was worse than playing, because, you go to practice and then you're sitting there watching film and game planning, and not only game planning for this week, you're game planning for the next week, and then you got to start recruiting and all that stuff. And it was ongoing. It never stopped. It never ended. I remember the time, I'm a guy who loves to play golf. The year I played, I coached. I played golf one time, and I said that that can't have that. So I got out of that. I wound up actually enrolling back in school because I had 2 classes to take and to finish my degree. So I wound up going back to Wayne State, finishing those 2 classes, getting my degree. And then I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to kind of create something that, for me, that involved everything that I loved. And I thought about it. I love journalism. That's the original reason I went to the University of Missouri. Wanted to be a sports journalist. I love traveling, and I love football. So I started working about 5 years ago for Fox in San Diego, doing a sports show, mostly college football. Where we do some pro football as well. And then I started working with a couple other companies called American Football Union and American Football Development, where we traveled internationally and we introduced the game of football. And we did football camps and trainings in China, in England, and kind of created that for myself.
Oh, wow. That sounds amazing. Yeah. And to spread the good word about football all around the world. Wow. And like you said, you've always been a person who likes to travel, so that sounds like a perfect fit for you.
Yeah, and like I said, we're introducing the game over there, and if you realize that football in an international level is probably the fastest growing sport. And they love it in China. They love it in England. With the NFL playing they're playing regular season games now in the UK. They play like 3 a year. They're going to play a preseason game next year in China. So it's it's really, the interest in those countries is really huge. So we go into the school system. We actually have a 12-week program that we do in England, where they're introducing these kids to the game, and then we have a league that we kind of work with on the college level in China. So we do it all, from kids from 7 years old all the way up to high school students.
unfortunately,
college students, I'm sorry.
Unfortunately, it's going to ruin our chances of getting any former Jaguars on the show, but are they going to, eventually, you think they're going to switch from the Jaguars and put professional teams in those games?
I don't know.
They do put them in lock, though, it seems.
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Oh, yeah, I was making fun of the Jaguars. I was saying that they tend to send them overseas for the games. Do you think that...
Well, Shad, their owner actually owns a soccer team over in London, and so he definitely signs up for those games. And they have actually a huge fan base. The Jaguars do over in the UK, so I see why the league sends them over there.
Okay, so that makes more sense now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I always wondered if it was like a random selection thing, or like you said, with them having the experience over there with their owner. That makes sense. So yeah, it sounds great. I mean, you've been doing the camps, helping out, just building the sport. So what do you do for fun nowadays?
I just play. For fun, I play golf. I'm trying to become a scratch golfer. I've gotten my handicap down to about 10 or 11, but I'm trying to get in the single digits. I have a lot of guys who I play golf with, former NFL guys, because I live in LA, actors, comedians, and they're all into the sport. So that's one of my things that I do, to relax me, that I do with my free time.
Nice. So who are some of the better golfers that you played with that we might not think of as golfers?
Athletes, Terrell Davis, he's a pretty good golfer. Marshall Falk. Marshall can really play. Golden Tate from the Detroit Lions receiver.
Detroit, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, Golden Tate's a pretty good golfer.
Is that that's the next professional sport for you?
I wish, man. I wish. I would have had to start playing golf, when I first started playing football, when I was like 13 years old. No, it's a little too late for me. But I love it. It's the thing about it. They say it's a game that can never be mastered because you're always playing yourself, and it's a humbling game. It is a game. It's a game where people who think that are great athletes, they struggle with it, and it's funny because that little white ball does not move; it just sits there, and you got to hit it, straight. You got to hit it around trees, over things, or whatever, into a little bitty hole. So it's a tough game, but it's a game that I love.
So with your love of golf, do you end up doing a lot of like the charity golf tournaments? Do you host any yourself? Anything like that?
You know what? I do some of the charity golf tournaments. There's tons of NFL guys and Hollywood people who have charity golf tournaments, and so yeah, I definitely go and support them. But I play every day on, just when I'm free. So.
Nice. So if our fans want to learn more about you, follow you on social media, that kind of thing, watch your latest show, what's the best way to do those type of things?
The best way is to follow me on Twitter or Instagram at VC_Chamberlin. That's VC_CHAMBERLAIN. And that's my Instagram and my Twitter. I'll tell you the other thing that I'm doing now is I'm involved in a social media platform called FanCom, and it's a platform where you can go pick your favorite team, and you can talk or have discussions with former players from that team. So to give you an example, I represent the Broncos and the Vikings. So on the Broncos site, it's me and Howard Griffith, our fullback. With the Vikings, it's me and John Randall, the Hall of Fame defensive end. So say you wanted to go on today, and I'm on while the games are going on, and talk about the Vikings and Packers. You can go on FanCom, fancom.fans, and, ask questions, start discussions, and like there was a lot of talk today about Aaron Rodgers and his broken collarbone on the Green Bay site. I think that was the hottest topic of the day. Is he going to be out for the season? Does he need surgery? Will the Packers make the playoffs without him? And so you're actually talking to former players who play with these teams. So you can sign up for free at FanCom, FANCOM.FANS, fancom.fans. Most of you guys go sign up for it. It's free. And you can talk about this Bronco game that's going on right now. The Broncos look horrible. They're losing to these Giants who haven't won a game.
Oh, wow. It was one of them Sundays.
Yeah. But, that sounds like an awesome program, being able to interact with former players, get the insight, that you have from your years of experience.
Exactly. So if you want to do it, you can sign up for free, fancom.fans.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Yeah, definitely. We would, we'd love to have other members of the FanCom family to come on and discuss, the program, with our fans.
Oh, definitely.
In the future. Yeah, that's great. But it sounds like a great way to go. I mean, shoot, you definitely don't sound like you're bored after football with having promoting the game internationally, doing the FanCom thing, and doing all the golf. That sounds great.
Yeah, I definitely keep myself busy.
Living the dream.
And living the dream. There you go.
Yes, indeed.
Exactly, yeah. Any final thoughts for our fans?
The final thoughts would be, I had an amazing career. I really didn't, like I said earlier, think that I would be a professional football player. But things worked out. One of the things that I always tell people is when I got my little opportunities here and there, and you never know when they're coming, is I made the most of them. I was really, I understood like when those moments were happening, whether they were just running down on a kickoff, getting the opportunity to catch the ball in a game, or whatever. I always recognized those moments and always took advantage of them, and that's the biggest thing that in life. You got to understand when your moments are happening, and you got to take advantage of them, whatever they are.
Definitely. How about you, TJ? I'll
leave you guys with that. And the other thing I'll leave you with is join FanCom. It's free. FANCOM.FANS.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I'm sure our listeners will definitely be signing up for that and getting a good word out there. Yeah, that's great.
Being able to have a conversation with your idol.
Yeah, that is an amazing opportunity for the listeners. But definitely want to thank you for coming on, and definitely look forward to following up with you in future seasons.
All right, it sounds good, man.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you again, Byron. We greatly appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
All right.